Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Bobcats Coaches Show here from Crossroads Social House in Wytheville, alongside head coach Wojtek Zemlika and our player guest tonight, Seth Bacon. Bakes, how are you?
I'm doing good, Brett. How are you?
Good, and I see you've got the wife, and her actual name is not Bacon Bit. So, tell us a little bit about the family and how much it means to have them here.
Yeah, I mean, little Savannah's almost 9 months old. It creates a big family environment for me being here, especially with living in the hockey house. Like, she has 20 uncles that she gives a run for their money a lot. So it's nice having them up here.
That's got to be comforting for Zemi to know they're getting their exercise away from the rink, just chasing her around the house. But hey, how about this? Let's go through the numbers real quick because there's a lot of numbers to go through from last weekend. So first of all, give yourselves a hand. Total attendance last weekend, 4,409. Better than 2,300 each night. Had almost 2,600, I think, or 2,260 something, I think, Saturday night. So give it up for yourselves for that. Give it up for yourselves. Total goals, 19. That's a franchise record for one weekend. Tied franchise record for a single game with 12. Got the 6 points. Got the 2 wins. I believe 64 shots on goal Saturday. I can't remember exactly how many there were on Friday, but close to 100 total for the whole weekend. So a whale of a job for you guys offensively. And Zemi, both games, you guys get down early, but, it wasn't one of those things that, it didn't really seem to change the momentum of the game. It almost seemed to flip it in your guys' favor.
Yeah, I feel like the first game we, underrated them a little bit. We came out a little flat. We're, expecting things to happen for us, but it was kind of a wake-up call for us. That first goal they scored, and I think right from that point on, we started playing a better game. Saturday, unfortunately, same thing happened again, but yet again we were there to answer to it quick, and it's the start of the game. It's the first couple minutes. Yes, we don't want to come out flat, and we don't want that to happen. But that answer is more important.
Yeah, Bakes, as we said, you guys were able to have a quick answer both nights, and the goal Friday just seemed like guys were trying to trying to feel each other out a little bit there. First time you guys have met since December, but as soon as you guys got your game both nights, it was fully downhill. The ice was tilted the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, after they got their first one, it's kind of a wake-up call that we got to get back to our style. And I think the next shift after that, we played in their zone for a while, and then just progress off that.
Yeah, it seemed like the mood on the bench for you guys, Zemi and I have talked about it a lot, that the mood never really seems to change when you guys get down. It's the same mentality when you guys are able to find that extra gear and get to your game. This weekend was proof of what this team is capable of doing when they get to that.
Yeah, I mean, since the start of this new year, we kind of turned the ship around a bit in the locker room and also on the ice. I mean, we're preaching that we're getting 1% better every day, and that includes games as well. The next period's got to be better than your last. So since the new year, the bench has been great, pretty much all positive, even when they do score first, and that carries us to come back in a lot of those situations.
Yeah, something you made sure to note, Zemi, before we go into any of the other individual performances, which there were a lot of great ones over the weekend. But something you noted when we talked after the game Saturday was how well Craig played Saturday.
Yeah, everybody played great all weekend long. Greg, Shammer, I can name every guy on the team. They all pulled their weight and they all brought in something. Games like this are sometimes hard. We talked about it last week. We're going in unfinished business with Watertown, and we want to get back the first game back to 500 with them, and then being able to win the series. And like Seth just said it, I feel like the team's been getting better and striving for a continual growth. and I think that's the most important thing, right? Like we have a great group of the guys, and we have a really good hockey team here, and we've talked a lot about the consistency, and looking at the whole game back, is we played. To me, we played a really good 5 periods out of 6. I'm always the first one to find something negative what we need to get better at. But again, that's very successful. Last time we've played them, we didn't look so well, didn't do so well. So we can see that improvement. But going down the stretch, like all the games on our schedule, no matter who you play against, every team is a good team. Now towards the end of the season, the team's getting better, and would we love to score 12 goals every game? Absolutely. But sometimes it goes in, sometimes it doesn't, right? Like we've been able to score that first and third period on Friday night, most of the goals. Saturday, similar situation. We scored a bunch actually in the second period, not so much in the third, but it was a little bit different kind of the game. I felt like they were more out for a blood than necessarily just playing hockey, and that's why I'm really proud of the guys, just staying composed, not allowing them to get in our heads and take necessarily penalties, and staying out of the box and just continue playing our game, our identity.
Yeah, Seth, I think, excuse me, from aside from what you guys were able to prove on the scoreboard, you fall into the category of Stucks, Carson, Robin throughout the weekend, but specifically in the back half of that game on Saturday when the score kind of started to get out of hand. Watertown's frustrated. They let that boil over. You guys stood up for yourselves, but you didn't do it in a manner in which it put you in a bad spot and would have allowed Watertown to get back in the game.
Yeah, I think a lot of our guys, if we get a tap on the shin pads, we're going to answer the bell. We haven't really had anything cheap. Our guys aren't jumping other players, but we will answer the bell, whether it's a smaller guy like Dales or Carson, obviously will. And then Big Rig, of course.
Small guy, Carson.
But no, we have from all the way from forwards to D, we're tough, and we're obviously not scared to show that and kind of control the pace of the game how we want to play it as well.
And your Valentine's Day gift to Alyssa over there was
keeping my teeth.
Yes, a big right hand, and then a swift trip to the box to think about what you did.
Yeah, that was. I think she liked that.
Yeah, I said it on the broadcast. I wasn't sure if they liked it, and then everybody started commenting that yeah, they liked it. I'm sure they did.
She's used to it at this point.
Yeah, that's part of the gig, right?
Exactly.
So let's get into some of the other great individual performances over the weekend. We talked about Stuckless a second ago. He, by the way, first player in franchise history to have a Gordie Howe hat trick and a regular hat trick in the same game. I don't know how many instances in the history of our league, period, that's happened. That's got to be rare. So we'll have to dig really deep into Hockey DB to get the notes on that one. But Stucks had a great weekend. 5 points for him in that game. Kozirev had a great weekend. Mercurio had a great weekend. I could name everybody up and down the roster. A quarter of the roster Friday had multiple points. Half the roster had at least 1 point. I think there may be one or two guys that were without a point. We won't name them because they might be embarrassed about it. But milestones as well Friday. We had Timothy St. Pierre get on the board, his first. He'd had a number of chances. We had Demid Petrezov get on the board with his first, and Nick McHugh get on the board on Saturday. That line with McHugh and Petrezov and Daly looks really good for the second weekend in a row. So we'll use the analogy of it seems like it's all starting to come together, right?
The thing about that weekend, and you talk about points over here. What's great to see that we could see the depth, and we could see that the guys who started as a 10 forward, they were able to produce too. On that line with Dales and Q, we had Demit and then Damon. Kind of playing the same role there. Being on and off the shift, and both of them produced. So again, it's every guy chipped in. Zach Ross scoring a big goal over there. Sensi, obviously first goal in North America in the pro hockey. Stuxy, you mentioned it, he's been playing some really good hockey. That whole line with Smarik and Kozy, again, another weekend back-to-back when they played well. Obviously, you go, Gali scored a goal. That was a big one for him. Dustin, every guy produced. So, again, to me, it's just showing the depth we have, on the team, and that all the guys are capable. And we still we didn't have Philip or else in the lineup this weekend too. So it's getting tough. A lot of good hockey players. Really good team here. But again, the another part is what you said. It's like the way the guys just play together. The chemistry between them and how they sticking up for each other, the positivity on the bench, just all around, including the team toughness you and Seth were talking about. It seems like, yes, it does coming together, but we don't want to get overconfident. We don't want to get too excited. We still understand there's a lot of work to do to achieve the goals we have.
Yeah, Seth, for you guys as a defensive unit, of course, offensively, 19 goals is great, but you got to stop them on the other end, and only 7 against for the whole weekend is a pretty good number for you guys against a team that, as you know, is pretty offensively minded.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously like to have a little less goals scored against, but I think we let them have a couple gimmies that maybe we shouldn't have, and we'll go over video and make adjustments to that. But in games like both this past weekend, you can really learn from what your mistakes were, especially through video, and kind of talking through it. Having a full week of practice this week is huge for us as well. Yeah.
That's going to be a bit of a different week practice-wise, and we'll get into this later in the show when we start to preview the weekend. But not playing on Friday, only playing Saturday and Sunday, so it's a little odd in that regard. But for you guys, the routine doesn't change too much, right, Zemi?
No, we made sure, again, we're trying to preach the consistency as a coaching staff from the players, so we got to make sure that we're consistent at what we do as well. So, with adding one extra practice, we actually did, a little bit of the leg day, a little bit of the competition, like free on free tournament between the guys, and that's something we haven't done this season yet. They earned it, deserve that for this past weekend. But at the same time, it has everything in there what we could do in the regular drill. So it was a little different today, but we still have those free practices before heading to Biloxi, just like we have any other week when we play on the Friday. So that was kind of the mindset is, adding something what could be a fun for the guys, but still have the same intensity and urgency and the habits as what we need to keep working on. But also, like I said, just having a little more fun out there.
Yeah, Seth, like we talked about a minute ago, we'll circle back to the weekend real quick and kind of wrap that here. For you guys as a defensive unit, as Zemi touched on, no Phillip this past weekend, but Carson, and as we know, he's very versatile, able to slide back there and join you guys on the defensive end. And you guys, week by week seem to have continued to build chemistry with those D pairs and seem to build getting that offensive side of the game going for you guys. So talk about how important that was for you guys this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Carson's stepping back there. He's done it in the past a few times, whether guys are banged up or just not in the lineup. That's a great tool to have in your box. And also, our D corps kind of stuck together pretty much since the new year. And you build that chemistry with your D partner. And we all bring something different to the table. And I think that our pairings now complement each other nicely, especially in different positions or different situations on the ice. So yeah, it's been going great in that aspect.
Yeah, I feel like the pairings, you guys play off of each other really well. Stylistically, you've got a big guy like Dennis who's able to skate through people single-handedly almost. You've got a guy like Ross that's just that steady Eddie and can find himself in the right place at the right time. Your pairing has really come together recently. When Phillips out there, whoever Robin's with seems to, it just clicks right away. You guys seem to be on the same page at any given moment.
Yeah, I mean, Saintsy's real offensive, and I'm not. I like to stay back and play D, but that gives him the free will to make those extra plays, knowing that someone's going to be back. So he kind of is acting as a fourth forward, at the same time, incredible defenseman. And then I think that goes up all the way through the pairings. I mean, you have Phillip, that's usually with Robin, his points speak for himself, and Robin is solid on D. He's going to swallow you in a corner. No one's getting in front of the net there. So I think the D pairings have been great so far.
And it was, as we said, a great weekend overall. Again, the numbers fantastic for you guys, but important. I'm sure the message is not to get complacent, not to let the air get too heavy in the tires, and just stay focused on the task at hand, right?
Yeah, it's hard after weekends like this, when kind of everything clicks, and now you're going to play another opponent. Even though it's away, sometimes that's where, again, you expect things to kind of happen. So we gotta make sure that we're staying humble and we're keep putting the work in and continue improving every practice and getting that mindset that anybody can beat anybody, and we gotta make sure we stay on top of our game and have that urgency going in this weekend against Biloxi.
Yeah, Seth, I'm sure the message for you guys from the player side in the locker room is after a weekend like that, I'm sure you can tend to get a little bit overconfident sometimes, especially with some of the younger guys. But it's I'm sure the message from a lot of you older guys in the room is to stay grounded, stay humbled, and just keep on it.
Yeah, like I said previously, one of Zemi's biggest things is we're getting better every day, and that comes through hard work. So after a weekend like that, come Tuesday or Monday, we're getting back to work day. We're getting right back to work. Starting preparations for the following weekend, and we're just can't get complacent and not happy until our final goal's done.
All right, so let's move into the middle portion of the program here. This is your first appearance on the Coach's Show, so as all first-timers are required, I don't know about required, but we have all first-timers take us through their hockey journey, their hockey background, so walk us through what things have been like for you coming up through the ranks and through your pro career and how you ended up here at Blue Ridge.
So growing up in Georgia, there's not a lot of hockey. Played AAA, which it comes to a certain point where, at least when I was growing up, that your talent outweighed the coaching available. So I got shipped up to Minnesota to play in the North American League. Ended up getting hurt a bunch in that league, so went to the NA3, tore it up there, got a scholarship at Bethel University, went to, I think, one semester it was, and the student athlete wasn't for me. So I think it was like 2019, signed in Delaware, and COVID hit. So I decided just to retire. A kid I played in college with kind of got me back into going to Baton Rouge, meeting him in Columbus and playing, and it kind of relit a fire in me. And since then, it's just hockey, nonstop, like it was growing up. So it's been awesome. Being at Baton Rouge is great. I think it's one of the best places to play between the fan base and just development. We've had a lot of guys called up this year, and I think that speaks volumes for our coaching staff and what we're learning in this league. So yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, talk about what the journey was like at the start of this year. I know it was a bit of a difficult start to the season for you, but seemed like as soon as you got here, you fit in right away, and you've been a great asset since.
Yeah, so last year I was one of the captains of Monroe, and they had their own issues that I don't want to be a part of, so kind of looking for a new home at that point. I asked to be released, and I knew a player that was on Blue Ridge prior, who's not here anymore that got me here, and it took me a little bit to get my feet back wet. I hadn't skated in 2 months, but the guys in the room welcomed me with open arms, and once I got my pace back and my feet back under me, it's been great since then.
And talk about, of course, this weekend, a big example of that, but just how great it is to see these folks around town and get to play in front of them every other weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Wherever, this is a smaller town than some of the other cities in this league, but going to Walmart and little kid tugging on your shirt, asking for a signature or something's pretty cool, and that happens quite a bit around here. Even if you're going out to eat, you get stopped, or it's in playing in front of our fans. I mean, Roar Country's pretty awesome.
It is. It is the best place to play in the league, bar none. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here, but I legitimately do think that. Before we move into the next part here, again, you grew up in Georgia, and I kind of want to expand on that a little bit. Again, not a real hockey hotbed, but at the time that you were growing up, there was pro hockey there around. So how did you really get into the game in that area of the country?
I played baseball growing up, and this kid moved down from Michigan when I was, I don't know, probably 6 or 7, and his older brother played. So we became friends. We went to one of his games, and I asked my dad if I could do that. And the next year, quit baseball and started that full time. And then from then on, just development, private lessons, house league to travel to AAA, and then continued all the way to pro.
Just once, I want to see you show up to the rink in a Thrashers jersey, please. Do you have one somewhere?
Yeah, I think they're all hung up in a shadow box, though.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah.
Man.
I played for the junior Thrashers.
Robin has a Thrashers hat, so he's got the best hat on the team, by the way.
I got the same one, I'm pretty sure, the Reebok one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's all time, but we need to get you an Ilya Kovalchuk Thrashers jersey before.
I think I got a game-used one at home, but it's not coming.
Coming out. That's never leaving the box. All right, so let's move into the superlative portion of the program. I'm going to ask you 5 questions about your teammates. Somewhat random questions that we do every week here. Everyone probably knows the first question and ultimately the first answer. Who's the biggest eater on the team?
Robin.
It's
disgusting.
I'm honestly going to phase it out, but yeah, I've heard.
It's like a cow. There's anything and everything he'll eat. It works for him though, so.
I'll tell you what, it certainly worked for him on Friday because he burned a lot of calories bowling 2 people over in a span of about 30 seconds. So whatever you're doing, Robin, keep on keeping on, buddy. He actually burned off some calories over there at the trampoline area a couple weeks ago when he was here. Except he went on there without the grippy socks, which is a no-no. So he's been asked that if he returns to put on the grippy socks before he goes jumpy jump, which is that's the technical term, by the way. Question 2: if you were stuck on a deserted island with any player on this roster, who would be your pick?
Either Danny or Carson. Andrioli, for sure. I'd be okay with either one.
Those are solid answers. Normally when we ask you're in this situation, Danny usually comes up as one of the main 2 answers because of the artillery he possesses. Normally that comes up in the zombie apocalypse question, which we get to later. But question 3, who is the biggest comedian on the team?
Probably Philip. He likes to joke around a bunch, especially in the room. Yeah, he's quite the jokester.
Question 4, who is the biggest prankster on the roster?
Biggest prankster. I don't know if we have any pranksters. Maybe Stromer.
I could see Stromer with some witty stuff.
Yeah.
You know, pull the chair out from under the guy when he's going get ready to sit down.
So yeah, that would probably be Stromer.
That's a solid answer. So question 5. if you were stuck in a zombie apocalypse with any player on the roster.
Yeah, Danny.
Yeah, but between the artillery that he possesses,
We'd survive.
Yes, you guys would be able to figure it out, I think.
100%.
Because every time we ask that question, it's either you or him is the answer. One person said Merck, simply because of the fact that he would just get so mad that it was happening to begin with, that he would just start running through anything and everything. And Dennis, apparently, because of his elusiveness, although Robin used the word sacrifice when referring to Dennis, which I don't think Dennis has ever emotionally recovered from him being told that Robin would just literally throw him to the wolves in a zombie apocalypse. But yeah, I think you and Danny would be able to figure your way out of it.
Yeah, we would do good. That's for sure.
See, this is fun. We have fun on this part of the program. All right, let's move into to this weekend, Zemi. As we said, it's another opponent that has been struggling of late, but there's some skill on that roster. There's some familiar faces on that roster, and as on any given night, we've seen it across the league a number of times this year. We saw Monroe on a 17-game winning streak, and Baton Rouge goes in there and ends it. A Baton Rouge team that's only just a handful of points ahead of Biloxi there in the other division. So on any given night, anything can happen. So talk us through what the game plan is for the weekend.
Well, we said that anybody can beat anybody. They're a good team. They have not been pretty consistent at who's been playing in the games. They just had Astoya coming back of the injury. They're missing a couple of their better forwards this past weekend, play against Topeka. So if they all show up, it's a very competitive team to play against. All the way from net through defense up front. But it ain't gonna be any different than what we've seen last few weeks from Danbury, Topeka, and Watertown. We haven't played against Biloxi, used to be the Mississippi, since the year one, I believe. We played them last season.
We haven't been there since year one.
Haven't been there since year one.
Come here a couple times
and they changed the team a lot, right? Most of those guys who've played there are not. So it's a lot of young blood, a lot of younger players who's going to be eager, again, to prove themselves. So they're going to compete very hard. And they do have, a couple players who used to play in Wartown. They have some chemistry. So the message, again, is this is more about us continue working on what we need to get better at. Obviously, we'll make the proper adjustments on what we see on the film from them. But it all comes down to, again, it's, that one job. What's there to do is everybody's job, and then we all have to be, on the same page and then play that full 60-minute game.
Yes, Seth, this is, again, it's a team that, talent-wise, you look at the roster, it's really not indicative of where their record is, and you look at a lot of the games, and they've been in them at a lot of different points in time. So this is a team that if you let them hang around, they could find a way to sneak up on you.
Yeah, I think the big focus this weekend is worrying about us, making sure we're prepared and letting our game speak for itself. That goes for any other weekend as well. As long as our guys are prepared, I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, it's going to be another long trip for you guys. This will be the first time we've been there, I believe, since, was it December of 23 or January of 24? It was year one. There's only one time that we played in that building, so it's been a while, but this is one of those times where you guys as a staff and as a roster kind of start to fall back on experience, right?
Absolutely, and that another thing is if you look at deep in the stats, you will see that our record on the road is not as good as our record on the home ice, and that's there's always a reasons to it, right? And so looking to improve that record and making sure that we plan to travel as well as possible, so the guys are rested. Obviously, have that right mindset going into away games. You don't know the barn, you don't know the ice, you don't know the conditions. There's a lot of adversities you face on the road, but again, that's something we spoke in Topeka about, and I felt like our games were better But a big part of it is like, it doesn't really matter what happens. The adversity doesn't matter because the game itself just cares about who competes harder for the 60 minutes out there, and that's kind of the mindset we need to keep. And obviously it helps when we get there early. The bodies gets rested. We get to have our pre-scout in the morning skate, get some rest before the game. Sometimes things happen, right, and you can control everything. So again, just looking away for this weekend is just continue working on our record on the away games and making sure we have the same preparation and mindset as we would be playing on the home ice.
Yeah, Seth, I'm sure that's the message throughout the week is to make sure that everything, both at the rink and away from the rink and getting ready to go on the road is buttoned up so you guys can be at your best when you get there.
Yeah, especially this deep in the season. Guys know what makes them prepare best, and everyone's different, so kind of stress on whatever you got to do, just be ready. I know Zemi's always making sure we're ready for on the ice, but when we're away from it, no matter if it's just a trip down to Winston-Salem or a 12-hour road trip, we still have to be prepared to play the same. And
from the perspective of especially that first few shifts of an away game, we hear it talked about a lot about the bus leg portion of it, but a lot of that can be psychological too, right? If you kind of block that part out, it's a lot easier to get to your game.
Yeah, I always get hit or hit someone first, kind of gets you going, gets the body we're here to play. Especially maybe a little bit longer of a warm up. The morning skate, super high tempo, good energy. Those are a bunch of things we stress when we're taking these extra long road trips like that.
Yeah, Zemi, and as he said, those morning skates are usually very, very high tempo, and it's more about getting the legs going than just getting a feel for the rink, right?
Yeah, but sometimes you're not able to have a morning skate, what obviously throws a wrench in your plans. But we don't call things a bus legs when we're we call it. You got to feel it out the first 5 minutes. And meaning is sometimes you start a game and you feel that your feet are heavy. The ice, somewhere the ice is hard, somewhere it's soft. The ice conditions are different. Your sharpening of the skates may not be done right for that kind of ice, so you feel like you're skating in the quicksand. But it all comes down to is, find a way to be to make an impact on your team. So if you feel like, well, maybe my feet are not going as they usually are, maybe I need to keep my game a little bit more simple. And especially in the first 5 minutes, the way you start the game is the way you play with the lead. You focus on the little things. You're focusing on the details, because at the end of the day, the details will shape your game for the next 60 minutes, right? So the first 5 minutes that's the first victory we want to achieve, and then from there, it kind of tells us, okay, this is what we're looking at. This is how the games is gonna flow, and this is what we have to do.
It's something that you talk about a lot, right? Is the small goals building up to the larger and larger goals. All right, win each shift. All right, win this next 5 minutes. Win this period. Win 2 periods. Eventually, that gets to win the game, and you start to build and stack that, right?
Yeah, it's easy to say, go out there and win the 60 minutes, because that will never happen, right? The momentum shifts. Sometimes they have the momentum, sometimes we do have that momentum, right? But you don't just win it on the scoreboard. Sometimes just, being able to steal a momentum from the other team, or just playing a great, shutdown defense, or just be the more physical team, the more energetic team. That's all our victories, different kind of victories, but those small victories eventually build that, the big victory.
Yeah, Seth, for you guys, something that Zemi and I talk about a lot in the program is the details, the little things that can end up deciding the game at a lot of different points in a rink where a lot of guys might not be too familiar with it. It's even more important to make sure that those things are buttoned up and tightened up going into this weekend.
Yeah, played in Monroe last year. I played in that facility a lot, so, and I'm sure other guys have as well throughout the years of their career. So the guys that have played there are telling the other players, like, watch out for this, that, but that's kind of small into what your personal details are. Every rink's going to play different. The ice in Biloxi, it's a warmer climate. It's probably going to be slower. That's not a secret. We know that. And that goes for everyone going in there. But the little details that each shift, each 5 minutes at the end of the period, we got to dial in. So.
Yeah, Zemi, I'm glad you touched on that. Right on the beach there, it is a bit of a warmer climate, but so a lot of people might think, oh yeah, that means the ice is going to be really, really wet. It's going to move a lot faster. Actually, it's really the opposite. It really slows the game down a lot and makes those hard, tight areas a lot tighter. It makes it a lot more of a tight checking kind of game, right?
Yeah, makes it more possession game. Like I said, it will, or it usually does, like you skating the quicksand at the times. Watching the previous games they've played, it seems there's been, the puck's been jumping all over the place. Now knowing that on Friday they have a concert going on and they're going to be putting the ice down on Saturday, we can already expect nothing but the ice not being in the top conditions. So that's how we have to tailor our game, right? Going in that first game on Saturday, that's how we have to start the game. That's what we gotta expect.
Yeah, it's another thing to note that you can think about your perspective from it all you want to, Seth, but in the context of not overthinking it, the other team's going through the exact same thing, right?
Right, we're all playing on the same surface. So then it comes down to our team details. Playing simple, playing fast, making the right, maybe not taking that extra move and maybe just putting the puck on the net and going to the net. Good teams find a way to win games, and it comes down to who's got better details. And that's kind of what we've been stressing, no matter where it is, on the road or at home, the details matter.
Yeah, and it's a team, Zemi, that's again, it's a bit of a younger team. It looks a little different than maybe they did at the start of the year. But one thing that's really clear and stuck out about them is, they have that pretty similar compete level. No matter where they are in the game, they're going hard every single shift. So that's something you guys got to try and match it and be better at that.
For sure, very competitive team, but I think they also have a really good offense. They got some players who've proved themselves, on different teams in different leagues. There's some young players who brought in a lot of that scoring touch. So we're gonna have to make sure that we play defense out, and then we're taking care of our end first and foremost, and then build our game off of there.
Yeah, Seth, it's as he said, it's a very offensive-minded team, a good offensive team, and one that you guys have as a defensive core have to be ready for, especially in between the blue lines.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than going into Columbus or some of the known offensive teams. Everyone's got their top two, first, second line. I think that with us, it doesn't really matter who starts that game. We have that depth. They're also saying the same thing about us. On the back end, we know what we're supposed to do. Take the first shift, see how you feel, play simple, and just make little minute adjustments. And maybe your gaps are off. I gotta take a better gap, or the puck's bouncing, gotta make a simple play, just go right up with it. Those aren't things we know until we're actually at puck drop time, but I think we'll be all right defensively.
Brett, playing a good defense is sometimes just a connection between the forwards and the D. Backtracking is a huge part of the game. If we can, if our D can have a tight gaps and our forwards, putting the efforts of coming back hard and trying to get above the puck and on the right side of the puck and force turnovers in the neutral zone, then we're not giving them a clean entries, right, in our zone. And when you don't allow teams to give a clean entries, now they play dump and chase game, and that's what we kind of want to force the opposition teams to do against us. But that's kind of meaning, not just playing good defense, that our D has to be on their top game, but it's all over, every single guy on the ice, being responsible and reliable defensively.
Yeah, Seth, I want to open up the Hockey Education 101 book here real quick. I talk about it a lot of the broadcasts, and I've heard people ask, what does gap control mean? What is a good pinch versus a bad pinch? So take us into the Hockey 101 defenseman education book here on what a smart pinch is, and talk a little bit about gap control.
Yeah, so gap control is something I've been working on for a while. I mean, guys in the NHL are still working on it. It's matching speed, but also knowing where you are on the ice. You kind of use the dot lanes as your guide as a defenseman. So if he's a slower guy and you have a good angle coming towards the boards, not letting him cut to the middle on you, and you're pinching him off before he gets to the red, that's a great gap. If you're letting him skate all the way into your zone, kind of backing off a bit, probably take a different route there or get your feet moving a little more. It's more of a better gap, not letting him get that entry. A pinch as well. And when we're in the offensive zone, if it's a 50-50 puck, depending on the type of player you are, I'm probably not going to go unless it's like 80% I can get there. Or if I see my forwards have good back pressure coming back, we have good high F3, I can take that liberty to go in because he's going to recover for me. So it's not just D, it's a lot of us, it depends on what we see on the ice as well. If we have that high F3, we can take that pinch. If it's 100%, obviously we're going to go. And that goes for gaps as well. If we're going to pinch them off before the red, we have to have good back check. And if we don't and we get burned, then it's an on-man rush going down the other way.
And I'm glad you brought that up as the last point, because I was going to touch on that. Use the Olympics as an example. The Team Canada game, I believe it was their second game on Saturday. I forget who they were playing, but the defenseman kind of cheated up towards the red. Brad Marchand chipped the puck off the wall around him, and all of a sudden it's a 2-on-1 the other way. So it's as Seth said, it's important to know where you are, but also kind of visualize what might happen afterwards, right?
Yeah, let me get back to that gap so everybody can kind of understand what the gap means, to put it as simple and understandable as possible. So when you have a player skating, if you have their player skating with the puck against our defender, the gap is the distance between their player and our player. And we say usually that, good gap is a stick length being away. That's a tight gap, that's what we want, right? But to do that means that our D has to get up the ice and kind of sort of support the offense. That's how they will be able to have those tight gaps. But answer to your questions, it's all those situations are reads. And we gotta make sure, as a coaching staff, we're putting our players in the practices in those situations so they can learn to make those reads. Because that's not something you just say, all right, well, let's not pinch, or let's pinch tonight, because the game changes. There's different variations, different situations. It's a reads the players are making. And knowing obviously what they have in their toolbox, if they're good skaters and they can get there every time, if they have a size, their stick reach, their confidence at the end of the day. But it can, if you do not have a good pinches and gap control, it will definitely it will make you a little bit vulnerable, allow some odd man situations and scoring opportunities. On the other hand, if you can have those gaps control and that the pinching making the correct reads, it will force turnovers and allow us to create offense.
So speaking of the Olympics, before we wrap things up here, a couple of housekeeping notes. A shout out to USA Women's Hockey. They're still rolling. They'll be playing for the gold medal on Thursday, outscoring opponents 26-1, all the way to the gold medal game, of course, against Canada. So Canada will get that rematch. Remember, Team USA shut them out for the first time they've ever been shut out at the Winter Olympics, Canada Women's Hockey. So needless to say, they might be a little miffed come Thursday afternoon around 3 o'clock. USA men's hockey, they get a bye into the quarterfinals. They will face Robin Eriksson's team Sweden on Friday, I believe, Thursday or Friday. So we'll be on the lookout for that game. But shout out to Team USA men's and women's hockey for making it happen over there in Milano Cortina. A couple more, give it up for them. A couple more housekeeping notes. Remind you about next weekend's home games. We got a 3-gamer with the PD Ice Cats Friday night. We got the Pepsi Family 4-pack. Of course, that's 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, 4 popcorns, and 4 Pepsi products for just $60. Can't beat that. Best deal in town. Saturday, we're going to have the team photo night giveaway that was pushed back because of the weather back in late January. So get here early, be one of the first 500 to get that team photo poster. It's also going to be Pucks and Pints night, part 2. So we'll have the $5 Natty Light draft for you over at the Blue Line Bar and Spirits. Sunday, Kids Day Sunday, kids 12 and under in free. Make sure to get here really, really, really early, though. Get your spot in line. Doors open at 3. And those ever-popular Aschenbach Automotive Kids jerseys are going to be given out on Sunday, next Sunday. There's only 350 of them, first come, first serve. Child has to be present for you to get the jersey. So make sure you're here, make sure the kiddos are here, and make sure they get suited up. Also, after the game Saturday, we'll have a post-game autograph session for those team photo posters so you can get everybody to sign them. Sunday, Bakes and everybody will be out there on the ice with you guys skating post-game. So it'll be a really fun weekend next weekend, but business to attend to this weekend. So we'll wrap it here. 3 keys to victory, Seth.
Compete. Play with a little bit of that fire and consistency.
I like it. Zemi?
Same as last week. Composure on and off the ice, cohesiveness and competition.
Nail it down. That's the bulletin board right there. Guys will be looking to get it done down on the Gulf Coast this weekend. Remember, no game Friday. So your Friday night is free for me and them. You're welcome, I guess. I don't know what else you could do, but you'll figure it out. There's enough Olympics on. Plus, I'm sure there's a truck race or something on. We'll be on the air 7:50 p.m. Eastern Time for an 8:05 Eastern Time puck drop on Saturday. And then a late afternoon start on Sunday, 5 o'clock Eastern Time start. So we'll be on the air at 4:50 Eastern Time on Sunday afternoon. So for Seth Bacon and head coach Wojtek and Linka, Kane Akers, our technical director. Brett Wiseman, we'll see you this weekend in Biloxi.